The actual payment is per clinician time. That's it. There's no, I'll pay you to do a better job or not. That's probably the only market that I can think of that it doesn't matter if you're doing your job good or bad. You'll get paid for a 15-minute session of whatever. Here's the CPT code, here's the number, you'll get paid. Now that is crazy. We have to move to a point where you're getting paid if you're doing a good job, and you won't get paid if you're not doing a good job.
Eran, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I'd love to start with just hearing more about you, your story, your background, what got you to starting XR today. Tell us about it.
So first, as you can hear from the accent, I'm originally from Israel. I served as an F-16 pilot for 15 years. And about 9 years ago, I was diagnosed with whiplash injury due to the active flight and the G-forces. At the same time, my wife got an offer to come and do her postdoc here in Boston. And I knew that no one would hire me in the US as an F-16 pilot, so I had no choice but to start my own business. The initial idea was to use virtual reality and augmented reality to treat whiplash patients. And today, 9 years after, XRHealth is, I believe, the biggest platform worldwide for therapeutic extended reality, virtual reality, augmented reality, and all the other acronyms. We completed 1 million sessions last year, treated 50,000 patients, operations in US, Europe, Australia, Israel, over 200 different types of application in a variety of use cases, for a variety of use cases. And I personally believe that virtual reality and augmented reality will be the backbone of healthcare in the next decade.
So for those that are not familiar or that haven't seen it, what is the product?
So we're taking off-the-shelf virtual reality headsets, currently mainly the Meta Quest headsets. But instead of kill the zombies, different types of applications, we are loading different types of medical environments, or we like to call those virtual treatment rooms. And a patient can put a headset on and get into a virtual treatment room and get treated for any type of condition that they are suffering from. And virtual reality or immersive technology are very powerful because we can hijack the brain to treat the body. And once we can use that technology to manipulate different type of things, then you can dramatically impact the patient condition, because I think people underestimate how powerful the mind-body connection is. And that's why this technology is so powerful.
Wow. And how did you know, really interesting background, how did you know this is what you wanted to work on and this is what you wanted to do?
So first of all, I think it was more, I flew with helmet displays for 15 years. And I thought, while I was doing my own rehab process, which was very boring, and I remember that I asked my physical therapist, am I getting better? And he was like, yeah, we don't have an idea if you're getting better or not. Like, what do you mean? Like, show me numbers.
Yeah.
Am I actually making any progress? Like, I think you're making progress. Like, okay, this is like... So the original idea was to create a fun and interactive experience, and on the other side to measure and capture data so we can actually measure the progress. Few things surprised me over the years. First, I thought that VR or different types of immersive technology will be adopted a lot faster. I think the entire industry thought it will happen a lot. It happened a lot slower than all of us expected. But the underlying assumptions are still there, which is a very powerful way to treat patients.
Got it. Now, what's interesting about your company is you're both a technology platform, but then you're also, you provide the care as well, right?
Yes.
Talk to us about that business model.
So first of all, in the first 5 years, we tried to sell to hospitals and rehab centers, and we failed miserably. People, I think it's very hard to incorporate new technology, digital health solutions in a healthcare facility, especially in a fee-for-service type of environment. And we saw amazing results across the board. Every time we used our technology with patients, outcomes were were amazing, clinical results were amazing, but we weren't able to commercialize and to convince healthcare providers to actually adopt the technology. And at some point we said, you know what? Instead of us trying to convince everyone that this technology makes a difference, we'll be the provider ourselves. And that was late 2019 when we made that decision, or actually before that. And I remember that I tried to raise money under that assumption that we, from a tech company, will actually become a provider. And investors told me this is the dumbest idea they ever heard. We won't be able to fundraise ever in our life because it's not an 80% gross margin business; it's a 50% gross margin business. And I told them, look, it's not that I want to do that, but we don't have any other choice. We have to, if we really want to incorporate this type of disruptive technology and unique technology in the healthcare ecosystem, you have to control the entire workflow. And we launched the clinic in 2020, and then COVID hit, so that enabled a lot of other things for us. But since then, I think that what separates us from other digital health companies, when we are treating patients, we are not just treating patients. We also understand the entire clinician to technology, relationship and how that actually coexist. And I think it's highly, highly important for a digital health company to understand that.
Right.
So that's how we ended up to be a provider.
So if I'm a patient and I want to sign up or I want to use the technology, what are the steps that I would take?
So first of all, again, after 9 years, maybe the most important thing that now we can say is that everything is covered by the health plans. Everything, from the headset to the treatment. And it took us, again, 9 years to get to where we are. But anyone that listened to this podcast can just go and sign up. And our team will run, all the different types of eligibility, check like you're doing with any other type of brick and mortar clinic. And if your insurance covers it, you'll get a headset from us, and then you'll sign up. And with one of our clinicians, we have physical therapists, occupational therapists, social workers, psychologists. They will treat you mainly remotely. And again, the cost to the patient is exactly like a brick and mortar clinic, just in a far better and superior, I believe, treatment.
Well, okay. And how did you go about getting all of this insured? Right, because I think that's one of the toughest, and it's actually one of the largest barriers to care. Right, is you have amazing technology, but you can't get it reimbursed. What was that journey like?
So unfortunately, I don't have any amazing insights that I can tell you that we did. First, people need to understand that if you are trying to get a new reimbursement CPT codes or HCPCS codes, the average time to get those new codes, 5 years. That's so what I encourage other entrepreneurs to do is while doing that, and try to convince people in Washington or the health plan, the private payers, to cover any type of service. I encourage them, if they want to take the fee-for-service approach, to try to read the physician fee schedule that is coming out every October. It's roughly 2,000 pages. Maybe now with the ChatGPT, people can do it a lot better than what I did a few years ago. And try to figure out how your device or service can fit within the existing fee-for-service, ecosystem. The other option that a lot of companies are doing, they're trying to sell to employers. They're trying to sell, to health plans in different types of mechanism. That's why you'll see most of the market in digital health today is around that type of market. The fee for service is a lot of friction. Let's call it in a lack of better word. But I do think that if you want to be successful in the U.S. healthcare system, you have to understand the fee for service model. That's where most of the expenses and revenue and the players are playing. And I think one of the biggest problem in the digital health market is that a lot of companies decide to shy away from that market because it's hard. It's hard. It takes a lot of time. You need to understand a lot of different pieces. But I believe that if you really want to make an impact, you have to be part of that system.
That makes sense. And we work with fee for schedule every single day, and with, for all the providers that we reimburse for, and it's just incredible to see the new technologies that are coming up that folks are reimbursing for. And so I think that's great advice. Switching gears a bit to the 1 million sessions you guys completed last year. First, congrats on that metric. I'm curious some of your biggest learnings from getting to that scale, which is it's serious scale, and maybe some of the more interesting use cases of VR.
So I'll start with my biggest lesson, or our biggest lesson. I like to tell our team is that we need always to solve the non-sexy stuff. People forget that it's very easy as a digital health company to focus on the cool but at the end of the day, the day-to-day, how do you ship a headset? How do you get someone to turn it on and understand what they need to do with a VR headset? Usually seniors that have very limited knowledge in technology, how you solve different types of tech issues, battery, connection to Wi-Fi, like all the things that looks trivial, they're far from it. And in order to get to 1 million sessions, that's where you need to put most of your resources, not the graphics of the virtual reality application. That's nice and it's important, but it's not what gets you to those types of numbers. So and also the workflows, like besides the actual technology that you need to solve in healthcare in a fee-for-service model, you have endless amount of documentation. And there are so many friction within the workflow that you need to understand and optimize for, and that plus the new technology, that's if you ask me, by the way, what is our biggest IP and moat as a company, is the know-how, is how to do, how to actually treat patient remotely using VR, get the insurance to pay for it, get the copay or the deductible, and get everything to work, and to a point that the patient actually want to stay with you for another session or another week. Yeah. So that's for the first question that you asked. The second question, use cases in VR. So first of all, I think the most common use case today is pain management. Across the board, thousands of papers showing how effective it is. Not just, by the way, there are other amazing companies in the industry prove that, how effective that is. And that's because, to go back to what I said at the beginning, we can hijack the brain to treat the body, and pain is a very, I think, a combination of how we perceive pain, how we feel pain, and what are the different techniques that you can use in order to alleviate pain. The second type of very, I think, successful use case, stress and anxiety, also very, very powerful use case. Substance abuse, PTSD, exposure therapy. We have in Australia, most of our patients are ASD patients. So each and every one of those use cases are a little bit different. I want to give maybe the audience some examples so you can imagine, because it's always hard for me to explain what people are experiencing in 3D. Let's take PTSD, for example. PTSD, you usually, the people that are suffering from PTSD are usually have a problem of continue or to maintain their way of life, because there are different types of trigger events that gets them back to that traumatic event, and as a result they are not able to actually go to sleep or just just go on a bus, for that matter. So one example, we had a veteran that experienced a traumatic event while he was back in Iraq, and one of the bombs that he was exposed to was near a bus, again in a specific scenario, and he wasn't able to actually get his kid on a school bus. Sounds very trivial, but that was outside of his ability to do. Now think about it, like, how do you treat that without VR, right? Without VR, you need to sit in front of your clinician like we're doing now, and then I need to teach you how to imagine that stressful situation with the hope that the next time you'll try to take your kid and then and have him go on a school bus, that won't trigger your PTSD. That was before virtual reality, right? In a virtual reality environment, I can press a button and I can put you on that bus, and I can actually manipulate the environment to a point that I actually want to trigger you because I want to desensitize you, and then go back and forth until you feel comfortable with that scenario, and then you can actually go on that bus, or have your kid go on that school bus. We can take another scenario that in an example that I like to give, and with that maybe I'll take you to also where are we heading with this technology, and a little bit of where the future is. Let's take substance abuse for a sec as an example. Let's say I'm suffering from I have a tendency to be an alcoholic, and the way that you treat those types of substance abuse today is that, again, we're sitting in front of our clinicians, and the clinician provide you with different types of tools how to cope with that scenario of you in a bar, tempted to drink, with your friends. Sure. That's how the standard of care today is. Now I want to take the audience to where are we heading. I can put you in your favorite bar environment, right? I can measure you using different types of biofeedback. I can put, in this case, 2 AI avatars that are simulating your friends, convincing you to drink. I can measure your biofeedback. I can see when you're actually getting triggered. And then I can stop the entire simulation, bring another AI avatar that is a AI clinician avatar that teach you how to cope with that scenario, trigger that scenario again, do this entire cycle again until you get to a point that you feel comfortable to actually go to the real bar environment and actually be exposed. Right now, what I just described, that's in the future. You need only a monitoring clinician. You don't even need the clinician in real time. So think about what that can do to supply demand, what that can do to different types of healthcare delivery. And all what I just described is 2 use cases out of thousands of use cases that we have in multiple conditions and use cases.
Wow. And so does the clinician have to be trained on how to set up their environments?
So it takes us at the moment 2 weeks to train a clinician to be XR certified. I do believe we can do a better job in training, simplify our systems and to train clinician faster. And I do think that, especially in mental health, but not just, I do believe this will become the standard of care within the next few years, mainly because there are, and we are operating now in 5 different geographies. I think I have pretty good idea about the healthcare challenges, and in all the different countries that we are operating, there are not enough clinicians. All of the clinicians that are operating are burned out. It's very hard for them to deliver care in the quality that they expect from themselves to deliver the care. And I think that technology is the only solution to actually unlock that gap. Now, when you ask yourself what type of technologies actually exist to actually solve that supply-demand problem, I personally believe that extended reality or immersive technology will be the solution. Because we were not meant to interact with computers using our thumb. People forget that the touch screens that all of us are using and the smartphones that are using, that's not like the end state. It wasn't even the beginning. Like it's 10-year type, maybe 15. Before that, we communicated and interacted with computers using a keyboard and a mouse. 10 years from now, we will interact in 3D because we live in 3D environment. And once you combine that with AI and healthcare delivery and all of those things, I do think we'll see a lot of impact on the healthcare market.
I think the technology is incredible, and I look forward to using something similar to this at some point. What do you say to the skeptics that say that this is a nice to have and not essential technology?
So I think as an entrepreneur, it's always interesting to see how people, we all as human beings, it's very hard for us to imagine the future. We believe the current state will be the future, and that's true for everything. Any type of technology revolution or any type of technology change, the definition, the main point of view of the people that are skeptical is like, there's not a chance it would work. You can see that, by the way, in electric cars. You can see that in smartphones or mobile phones or even the internet. In any type of disruptive technology, at the beginning, people are skeptical. But at some point, you get to a situation where the technology provides, one of my early investors likes to say that in order for technology to be adopted, it needs to be 10 times better than the existing solution, right? And I think we're getting it. By the way, it took longer than I expected, but in pain management, in mental health, in stress, anxiety, all the things that I described previously, even in physical therapy and occupational therapy, we are getting to a point where you'll be able to get treatment from the comfort of your home in a fun, engaging way, in a way that you can capture your outcomes and measure your progress using different types of AI agents that help you manage your care, or you can go to your brick and mortar clinic. So I think that with every day that goes by, we are getting closer to the 10x that we need to be in order to change the market. For me, it's not a question of if anymore, it's only a question of when.
I like that answer. We'd love to hear, if you had to pick one or two of the stories, and you gave a couple examples earlier, but one or two stories of folks where this technology has just changed the way they've lived their life. I think folks would love to hear that.
So first of all, I'm inviting people to look at our patient feedback and patient testimonials on our website. You'll hear, real stories from real people, how VR and the treatment changed their life, from people that are suffered from post-stroke, all the way to people that are even telling us now that instead of reaching out to the painkillers or to the anxiety meds, they're taking a headset. And I'm not talking about like it's not one or two. Like currently, I'm probably hundreds of those stories that they're using VR instead of opiates. Multiple of those stories, um, and they are. I can tell you an interesting story as an example. Um, we had and then it's also an interesting story, I think, on a business side and entrepreneurship side, and how we found ourselves actually operating in Australia, um, because we are, Delaware, U.S. C corp, and just when COVID started, we got a phone call from one of the biggest insurance companies in Australia, and they told us we want to offer VR solutions for our members for physical therapy. And we ended up parting ways, and at some point we decided to even shut down the Australia business. And at the same day we decided to shut down the Australia business, in a day we saw 50 patients signing up without us doing any marketing activities at all. And apparently, what happened is that a mother of two autistic kids signed up for the VR treatment, and she told us afterwards that after a week of using the virtual reality treatment, she saw immediate improvements in anger management, in coordination, and her ability of her two kids to actually do different types of daily tasks. So she just posted that in a Facebook group of parents for ASD patients, and in a day we got like 50 signups. Until today, we're treating now. We're probably one of the biggest ASD clinics in Australia, which you would imagine to be very strange, but we see those types of results across the board. So that's like again a ASD use case. We have multiple types of most of our patients in the US are seniors. Most of them Medicare Advantage, chronic pain, or different types of multiple type of chronic conditions, and as I mentioned, in Israel now it's mainly PTSD, and in Spain it's exposure therapy. So we have a lot of different unique stories like the one that I mentioned or the one that I mentioned before. But I think what's interesting about this technology, it's a very broad technology. It's not that it's a one size fit all. What is unique about this technology, it's a combination of body and mind. Maybe the only technology that I can think of that you can actually, again, do different types of elements that are affecting how you perceive reality and how you actually getting treated. And that allows multiple ways of treating patient in multiple types of conditions and use cases.
So you've said that when you bring a new technology to market, it's a little bit about education as well, and it takes a village to educate folks about this new technology. What's some of the work you've done there? Because clearly there's a lot of impact from the stories you tell, but how do people find out about it?
So I think healthcare is probably the hardest market to actually introduce new technology, because the entire industry is risk averse. Your customer is not the one that is actually paying the bills, and is actually most of the time the user is not even, like, you have multiple decision makers here that have sometimes not the same interest, and also people are very skeptical. Even today, I can see when I'm telling people that VR can help them, the initial reaction is skepticism, right? That it's still today. And also, we need to remember that most of the virtual reality market until maybe the last 2 years was all around gaming and entertainment. Now suddenly we need to convince people that a VR headset that was, they saw ads about how they can use it for gaming. Now it's actually a medical device, or it can actually help you. So they are, and on the other side, virtual reality is probably one of the most researched field in healthcare ever. I think the last number that I remember is that there are more than 15,000 papers already published about different types of, benefits and how VR can help patients. And I actually got to a point at the beginning, like we published like 50 papers. And again, all the, FDA listing, CE mark, all the platform is full, like all the things that you can expect from a medical device company. But about, I don't know, probably a few years ago, I came to realize that it's not that you need another paper to convince someone to actually sign up. It's like, and it's not that it's not important. I think that without those papers and clinical validity, you cannot even, get into the game. But that's not sufficient to actually be successful in healthcare. I have a theory that at some point maybe I'll even write something about that. But for me, there are four different things you need to be successful at in order to be successful in the healthcare market, or digital health for that matter. Number one is FDA, or a combination of FDA and clinical validity. No customer will wait outside your office when you'll publish a paper or you'll get an FDA clearance. Number two is you need actually reimbursement. You need a business model. If you don't have a business model, nothing would work. But that's actually also not enough. Number three, you actually need to convince clinicians and providers that this technology is better than any other technology out there, because you're competing against multiple types of solutions. And number four is that you need actually a patient to say, I want to use it, it's helping me, I want to use it over and over. You can fail in each and every one of those stages. And in order to be successful, you have to educate each and every one of those key decision makers. I think that we are now trying to get to number 3 and number 4. I can tell you that on the clinician side, it's getting better, but clinicians are skeptical by nature. But I also think that they understand that they need to look for different solutions that are non-narcotic solutions. And patients, I can tell you that what I see is that patients that are signing up with us are open-minded. They're willing to give it a try, and they believe that they will see value, or they gave up on all the other solutions. But once they signed up, we have probably the highest adherence rate in the market. I like to, what's the percentage of people that are continue to the second mental health treatment? Second, like you want to go to see a psychologist. You just met with your psychologist for the first session. How many of those actually continue to the second session?
Maybe sub 50%.
Sub 50%.
Is that right?
That is the number.
Yeah.
Sub 50%. In physical therapy, what is the percentage of people completing their treatment, their prescribed treatment? What is the percentage in the market?
Maybe 20-30%.
Hey, very good.
No, just guessing.
But think how crazy it is, right? You have in mental health, 50% of the patient are giving up of mental health treatment after one session with a psychologist. And on physical therapy and occupational therapy, you have the vast majority, 69% of the people are not completing their treatment cycle. Now, what are the downstream effects? Then you're getting to crisis mode, right? Then you are getting, people, getting to the to the hospital in a crisis mode management because they weren't engaged with their therapeutic regimen. Virtual reality is a very unique technology because, as I mentioned multiple times, no one want to be sick and no one want to be in a hospital and and the fact that you can put a VR headset on and I can put you in a completely different experience in a press of a button, right? Once that happens, suddenly you want to do more of those. You prefer to be in that cozy environment if that's what the clinician decides for you. Cozy environment, comfortable environment, instead of feeling bad, right? So the engagement and the adherence for the therapeutic plan is by far better than what the market is actually have today to offer. And I think that's so. On the other side, no matter how good I'll do my job in this conversation, I would never be able to explain the experience of putting a VR headset on. Never. Yeah. And that's our challenge.
Yeah, you just have to do it, right? And
exactly.
No, I think I like how you put the four pieces, and you have to get all four right, and you have to do it well, and you have to do it at scale. It's a serious problem to go and solve, and so I think it makes sense. What are some of the more interesting use cases? I know you talked about one, which is you can simulate going to the bar and putting some agents around the person. What are some of the other interesting use cases that you guys are coming out with or focused on?
So first, the combination of AI and XR, I think, will just be mind-blowing. Like, really mind-blowing. Because once you have those AI agents that will look and feel like human beings, and we're not far from that type of scenario, that we will sit like we're sitting now next to each other, and you'll put a set of glasses and you'll talk to, or a hologram of your loved ones, or an AI agent that will look like, right, someone that or just someone else. Now, when you think about those types of capabilities in the hand of the clinician, it just creates endless amount of possibilities, because it's not just the AI avatar that you can manipulate and create different types of scenarios, but it's also the entire environment, right? Once you can create computer-generated environment at scale and manipulate those to endless amount of use cases, all the type of treatments that you can think of that does not require me touching you or a clinician actually physically touching you. Everything else will be done that way. Anything that you can think of. So mental health is easy. All the different mental health, right? The mental health market will look completely different in the next 5 years. It's not like in the next 5 years, I don't see a scenario once this technology will mature, and as we can see, it is just a matter of when, not if. Who will want to, even the clinician themselves won't want to do this. They will prefer to manipulate different types of environments, create different types of scenarios, do different types of, so I think the mental health will be probably the number one, market that will dramatically change as a result of this technology. When you look at the physical and the rehab market, in hospitals today, most of the hospital, how they do. So besides the rehab, the physical rehab, where a physical therapist needs to actually touch you, at the end of the day, a rehab, in order for you to be successful in your rehab process, right? The measurement is get you back to you able to do by yourself the daily activity that you need to do. go to the supermarket, get yourself some coffee, go to the fridge, grab. Like that's where the rehab facility need to get you at the end of your rehab process, right? Then you're being discharged back home. And then from that point on, the hope is that you'll be able to just go back to your daily,
Sure.
to be in, daily life. In order to do that today, hospitals and rehab centers are building mini homes inside of a hospital. I'm not kidding. This is how rehab is being done. They're actually building like a mini units of supermarkets and mini units of your kitchen and your bathroom and your living room. And they're teaching you how to do that. Right? You won't need to do that anymore. You just won't need to do that. You'll just have multiple type of simulation, right? And automatic simulation, not one by one. So the entire rehab, market will change. And maybe the third thing, which is maybe even more important than the other two, this entire market, the entire rehab market, and I would argue even the mental health market, we don't actually know what's working and what's not. We don't know. Think about, how do you choose your physical therapist, your social worker, psychologist? How do you choose them today?
You probably get a referral.
That's it.
Yeah.
You get a referral. I heard that guy is good. That's it. You have no numbers. You have no statistics. You have maybe stars at Google. But like, what does it mean? Like, can we actually tell ourselves as a provider, how do I know I'm doing a good job? And I like to ask in the insurance companies, the health plan, when I'm negotiating with them, different types of, like, think about how crazy it is. A health plan is paying to a provider based on what?
Contracted rates.
But the contract rates are based on what?
Some negotiation they've done.
Not even that. Like, forget about the actual contract, but the actual payment is per clinician time. That's it. There's no, I'll pay you to do a better job,
Sure,
or not. That's probably the only market that I can think of that it doesn't matter how if you're doing your job good or bad. You'll get paid for a 15-minute session of whatever. Here's the CPT code, here's the number, you'll get paid. Now that is crazy. We have to move to a point where you're getting paid if you're doing a good job, and you won't get paid if you're not doing a good job. Until now, it wasn't possible to actually measure in a good way the clinician performance. But once you start placing the patient in a computer-generated environment for every type of scenario, and you can define different types of outcomes besides patient-reported outcome, which is to ask the patient if they believe they got better. You can change the market completely. So that's another very important piece in the puzzle, that once those technologies will emerge and will become more, a backbone of a healthcare delivery, it will change the market dramatically.
Well, it just feels like, to your point, because there's such a lack of supply of these providers, technologies like this have to come to the forefront over the next 5 to 10 years as we have more aging population. So I think this is I've learned a lot just from hearing you speak. Anything we didn't hit on today that you think is important to call out?
I think we covered all the important things again for the audience, and I always like to end with that in any podcast, and be more open-minded for new technologies. I think it doesn't matter if you're a provider looking to incorporate new technology, if you're a patient looking for, try new stuff. It's a process that all of us, don't give up on the healthcare system. And I find a lot of patients giving up. There are multiple solutions today trying to help you to recover or to become a better provider. And it's very hard to see that, because the healthcare system is currently designed to optimize for those 15 minutes, another 15 minutes, another 15 minutes. If you are a believer that this healthcare system can be better, try new things. Take the leap of faith and experiment with multiple things. And you'll see that it's not just 15 minutes here or 15 minutes there. It will help you recover better as a patient, and it will help you to become a better provider. And even though the system today is challenging, I'm more optimistic than ever. I think that the combination of, again, immersive technologies and AI and the different things that are happening in our market and the amount of players and organization trying to solve this very complex problem, I think all of us together will make it happen.
Okay. Well, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.